To me, my studio space is definitely a sanctuary, definitely somewhere I can go and work in peace, but it's also a factory to run business from, which is the most important thing, is having a space that I can work from affordably. And it just feels a lot more professional to have a space. If you're self-employed or you work for yourself, it's very, very important to have somewhere where you can work from that's not your house. It's definitely great to have creatives sharing the same building, just because if you need something, they're definitely going to have it, and we all share a similar, roughly similar, well, kind of roughly do the same thing. So anything from paintbrushes to camera film, anything, if you could just ask anyone, they'll have it, or just for help, just really useful. With the erosion of buildings like this, it's not going to help the city, obviously, because the city is renowned for its culture, which is built upon by the creatives that use these buildings. The more they turn these buildings into flats, the less creative people are going to be here, the less culture that's going to be in Manchester, and then there's going to be no need for all the flats they've just built. Half these buildings are band practice rooms, art spaces, and that's what drives the culture of the city. If you get rid of this, then there's no culture left, really, I guess. Well, not much room for it. To me personally, well, I'd probably move to somewhere where I could, afford to live and work from, because I mean, it's an affordable space, and the actual shop centres and industrial places are far too expensive for small business owners. And obviously, as the more flats they build, the more the prices rise on retail units, so it's not good. I think Manchester should receive more funding for small businesses, definitely, and artists. Anyone that's willing to start up and do their own thing, I think that's an important thing that the whole government should fund, not just Manchester, but obviously it's important to the city itself because it's so renowned for its culture, its music scene and its art scene. I think it's important that the council realises that's something that needs to be nurtured and have money put into.
Our business is called Aeroplane, and I'm Gareth. I think you've got one side where you work at home and you're isolated, and you've got another side where you're in like a shared space, maybe you're surrounded by 100 people and you can't concentrate. So I think having your own space is really important. I think a bigger thing is being part of a community as well, so kind of what goes on outside your studio door and kind of the influences and all that goes on with that. So I think it's really important, for any creative, really. I think, a city is a big economical space, isn't it? It's always changing. I mean, this mill that we're in is 200-year-old, and it started as the cotton industry. It wasn't an artist space, and I think 200 years later, it is what it is now. I wouldn't really like to see Manchester do where London went, where things just getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and where it was just money, money, money.
I'm Callie, and I'm based on the 3rd floor. I am a fine artist. I mainly specialise in figures and portraits. Mainly work in charcoal, but then I'm moving on to painting as well. So yeah, just developing. I think creativity very much doesn't exist in isolation. It's great to have your own space, and you need that, but it's sort of it can't exist in a vacuum. You've got to be able to take inspiration from others and from the world around you. And having people around you really is the difference between make or break in this industry, I think. Because yeah, without that space and without those people, you lose your momentum, and it's so easy to just go back to the 9 to 5. 3 friends that I can think of now who not in here in all different studios, and their studios have closed down and they've been left looking for spaces, and one of them it's his sole business. I'm constantly reading articles in the newspapers and magazines about how important creativity is, and fostering creativity in younger generations, and that's what's gonna power our industry and the nation forward. So if they really believe those things, then they absolutely do need to be investing to be able to give it a space to live and thrive.
Yeah, I'm Becky. I work for an independent publisher called Compress, who's been based in the mill for over 2 years now. And so rather than being an individual studio, we're very much an office, but there's 4 of us, so it's really nice that we can come together every day and work. Well, I think it's really important that places like this are kept as they are, and that that the rates aren't like pushed higher and higher, because eventually like all of the creatives will be pushed out of the city and it will be starved of creativity essentially, and it means that only the luckiest few can have a space to be creative. And I think that there should be an obligation on the council to preserve buildings such as this for this specific purpose, and I think that there should be a responsibility on, well, maybe not a responsibility, but they should be preserved, and private companies that are trying to buy them up who maybe do have a lot more money, it shouldn't just go to the highest bidder. There should be there's a good reason for keeping it as it is, and that might not be the most financially viable reason, but ethically and socially and creatively it is.
My name's Philip Woolley and I make fragrances, beard, grooming products and handmade soap and candles. My company is called Totem Wolf, but I also have another company called She Wolf, which is more on the ladies' side. My studio space really is, it's almost like a haven for me. That I've been doing the business for about 8 years, and for the first 5 I did it in my flat at the other side of the city. It took over my spare bedroom and it took over my kitchen, so I had about this much space left for me, and it was just getting too much. And then this studio came available. It had dreadful colours on the wall, broken windows, and I immediately said I'll have it, which was a bit of a shock, and everything changed from there. I think by having a dedicated space to be able to do your art or make products or whatever it is, it's got to be important to you, because then there's a separation between your personal life and your work life. Even though for me, coming to the studio isn't working, it's more of a social thing for me, because here at the mill we've created a community, and a community that looks after each other. It changed my life and it changed my business with regard to having creative people around me. It's vital to have spaces like this in Manchester, because there are so many talented people that it may be like, in my case, where I was at home because I was doing what I was doing, but I wasn't fulfilling my potential. And it wasn't until I came to Hope Mill that all of a sudden the business expanded and I was getting more out of it. And that's part of what the mill brings. If all the mills that we've got, that have got all this history in Manchester, if they get changed into residences and people who are artists or creatives have nowhere to go, then you're eroding the city, if you like, in an area where it should be thriving, where the council and the government should be investing more and saying to developers, no, you cannot make that mill into apartments. There are new builds going up, and that's fine, but use the properties that we've got and make them into small, affordable studios so that artists can go in. And whether they're going to sell their art or not is immaterial. There's a space there for them, and that's what's lacking in the city.